Political panel time, isn't it exciting? Joining me now, Republican strategist and president of Advancing American Freedom, Tim Chapman, and Democratic strategist Hyma. I want to play sound for you from the president today about Iran and the war. Please listen.
We have to put out this cancer. It's a cancer. We had to take that operation, and we did, and it was very successful. And it continues. Frankly, as somebody said, they could leave today, and it would take 10 years to rebuild the damage that's been done. But I think we have to make it a little bit more permanent because no other president has to go through this.
How do you translate that, Tim, in terms of what Americans listening to that might think of a timeline? Because also at that same event, the president said 2 or 3 more weeks.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think the timeline is until the job's done. I think the president.
How do we define that?
Completely defanging the regime. I mean, they need to have no missile capability. They need to not be able to cause trouble in the region anymore. And the president's committed to that. I think that's really important. And look, I think we have to have a little bit of patience. Everyone's clamoring for an endgame here. But the endgame is not complicated. They cannot disrupt the Middle East the way they've been doing it.
And that means a different regime.
It doesn't have to mean a different regime.
Okay.
It means a regime that no longer is capable of doing what it's done up until this point.
I don't know if you had a chance to hear Senator Ted Cruz on the program, but he said he wouldn't rule out boots on the ground if it was short and for a defined mission. Seems like there is encroaching rhetoric in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, look, that is definitely moving the goalposts a little bit. And I don't think the American people are up for that. Yeah. I don't think the president's pushing for that. I don't think the administration wants that. But I think that the administration feels like they can do the job right now through air power, through working with the Israelis, and they can find a way to do enough damage and then leave. And once you do that, like, look, if it doesn't matter who's in power at the end of the day, it matters that they cannot inflict this damage on the region and on the American people anymore.
Lindsey Graham would probably not agree with that, but that's just one voice in the Senate. Hyma, your perspective.
Look, I mean, I agree with some of what my colleague is saying, and I think at the end of the day, the president has told the American people that there are a couple of reasons why he's out there doing these strikes and engaging in this conflict. And I think majority of Americans believe him. But here's what the question is right now. To your point, will Americans stomach putting boots on the ground? I don't think so. 2, do Americans want to see an endgame? Yes. Nobody wants to see a protracted war. And so what Democrats are doing right now is they are both presenting themselves as the opposition party, but they're also making sure that they're keeping their finger on the pulse of this election. I mean, I'm sorry, of this conflict, because we're in the middle of the midterms right now. And so you have a lot of things that the Democrats are wanting to talk about, but this war is giving them even more fodder for their conversation on affordability. What they're saying now is the president's spending so much time outside of America that he has no time to lower costs. And I think that's going to be a salient message.
One of the iron rules here, and there are not many, but one of the ones is if I pitch it before we go to break, we have to talk about it when we come back from break. So I mentioned Maine.
Yeah.
Graham Plattner, Janet Mills. Janet Mills is the sitting governor.
Correct.
She's the favor of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee and a lot of the institutional sort of investors, funders of the Democratic Party. Graham Plattner is the insurgent. And now they're getting bitterly involved with one another. Hyma, break this down for us.
Well, this is going to be a primary to watch regardless. So you have someone who is...
Because Susan Collins, the Republican, is perceived as vulnerable.
She's perceived as vulnerable. And so you have 2 Democrats who are running their hearts out right now. So Graham Plattner, who is an insurgent candidate and who represents some of the progressive wing of this party, and then the incumbent governor, Janet Mills, who, and some people have said she's a little too old. But this ad she put out today, what she's trying to prove is that she's a fighter. And so if she can prove that she's a fighter, in some ways I think she can eke Graham Plattner out and emerge as the nominee. I think she and some Democrats have agreed over the last few weeks that she will be the stronger opposition against Susan Collins.
Tim?
Look, what you see in Maine, you're seeing across the entire country, okay? In both parties. You're seeing anti-establishment candidates going up against establishment candidates. And there's a real tension there. And I think
some of that's happening in Illinois, too.
It's happening across, and it's not, again, not just the Democrats. This is across the board. But here's the problem. The problem is the anti-establishment candidate right now in Maine is so on the fringe. I mean, he's dabbling in anti-Semitism and all sorts of conspiracy theories. It's a real problem. And the Democratic Party needs to jettison that as quickly as possible if they want to be electable in 2028. The Republican Party has their own problem. And there are a lot of nefarious forces that are trying to impact both parties right now and trying to inject this kind of thinking into both parties. What I'm happy about right now in the Republican Party is I see a lot of Republicans, including the administration, finally beginning to take that seriously and trying to push those elements out of the party.
And to your point, you heard Senator Ted Cruz talk about that on the program earlier, name-checking at least Tucker Carlson, but those who are like Tucker Carlson in criticizing this particular military campaign launched by the president. Tim, it's been great to have you at the table. Please come back. Hyma, you're always welcome here. Thanks so much.